good, y'all? It's your boy Ross back at it again with another video. So we got 10 WWE wrestlers who blatantly talked during the match. Now, if you listen real closely, depending on where the camera is, sometimes you're able to hear wrestlers call out spots or say something to the referee, or maybe the referee calls out a spot. If you just listen closely, depending once again on where the camera is, and it sometimes takes you out of the match, you know. So we're gonna check this out, man. Appreciate all the love and support on the channel. Road to 90K. Let's do the damn thing.
A spot calling is a fundamental part of pro wrestling. It relates to the wrestlers in a match communicating with each other to make sure that the match goes as smoothly as possible. There are certain wrestlers that have mastered this craft over the years, but unfortunately, this doesn't stop even the greatest wrestlers in the world from audibly calling spots in a huge matchup. But which times were they? Well, join us now as WrestleMania looks at 10 WWE matches with blatant spot calling or wrestlers talking.
You've seen it so many times. If you just watch sometimes just a live event, you'll be like, oh, they're saying something. They're
Be
calling
sure to
out
subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10, Team WWE versus Team Alliance at Survivor Series 2001. At the main event of Survivor Series in 2001 featured Team WWE taking on the Alliance for the control of the entire company. Due to the chaotic nature of the match, there was a ton of spot calling, but one specific spot call in the match was extremely noticeable. When Rob Van Dam and Chris Jericho were in the match, Jericho proceeds to run into the ropes and screams at the top of his lungs,
oh, damn.
Sometimes spot calling is used when the talent aren't overly familiar with each other, and seeing as RVD was relatively new to WWE at the time, it's entirely possible that Jericho and RVD weren't used to each other in the ring yet.
And a lot of times, if you, for example, like John Cena and Randy Orton, we know they've had countless matches, so they kind of have a rhythm of what spot to, you know, what spot's about to happen or what move's about to come their way, because they've faced each other so many times. So you kind of have that rapport, you know, oh, sometimes after this move he's going to do this. They may call some spots, but it depends on how many times this person has wrestled with each other, and, you know, how many times, you know, how good their chemistry is in the ring, to the point where they don't really have to say too much. They kind of know each other, you know, what the next person may end up doing because they've wrestled them so many times.
Number 9, John Cena versus Alberto Del Rio at Hell in a Cell 2013. John Cena is perhaps the most famous spot caller of all time.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the main criticisms of Cena's work is that he calls spots far too loudly, and this has been a common trend throughout his career. Take for instance his match at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view in 2013 against Alberto Del Rio. WWE needed something special for the pay-per-view, and that something special was the return of WWE's golden boy, John Cena. Cena was going to return to the company to take on Alberto Del Rio for the world title, and naturally, Cena captured the world title once again. And the match itself was fine, but the spot calling was so blatantly obvious that it distracted fans from the action taking place. At one point in the match, Cena tries to grab Del Rio's legs to apply the STF. This is when Cena shouts,
the World Heavyweight Champions for making him look that
Oh, wow.
Cena would directly call for Del Rio to hit him with a German suplex, which miraculously occurs just 2 seconds later. Number 8, Brock Lesnar versus Triple H at SummerSlam 2012.
John is, yeah, he's known for the loud call-outs. You might as well be, hey, suplex me. German suplex next. You might as well be saying that.
Throughout his legendary career, Triple H was well established for being a ring general, and this meant that he was usually the one who called the action during a match. When Brock Lesnar returned to WWE in 2012, one of his first feuds was with Triple H, and their main event showdown at the SummerSlam pay-per-view featured a number of audible spot calls, mainly by Triple H. At one point, Triple H has to direct Lesnar to take a bump over the rope, as Triple H informs Lesnar,
I'm loading on Lesnar. A couple of times, Lesnar's gone for a lock, and Triple H
It's possible that Triple H felt he needed to guide Lesnar through the match, due to the match only being Lesnar's second WWE match in 8 years. Number 7, Roman Reigns versus John Cena at SummerSlam 2021. Roman Reigns' main event match for John Cena at the 2021 SummerSlam pay-per-view was a monumental matchup. It was established as a dream match as Reigns and Cena had never gone one-on-one whilst Reigns was portraying his acclaimed tribal chief persona. The match, for the most part, was well received, but this didn't mean that there wasn't more blatant spot calling from the former 16-time world champion. During the match, Reigns had a sleeper hold locked in on Cena as Cena is trying to feed off the crowd reaction. Cena then informs Reigns to...
John Cena trying to power out of this sweep.
Oh, wow.
Reigns then proceeds...
And it's crazy because the cameras are much better. The microphones on the cameras are much better. The angles and stuff. There's so many different cameras going on at one time. It's so much easier to see spots being called than it was before back in the day because of the quality of the technology that they use.
To jump on Cena's back, and as the two then transition into the next planned spot. Number 6, CM Punk versus Batista versus Rey Mysterio versus The Undertaker at Bragging Rights 2009.
Damn, I forgot about that
Four
pay-per-view.
WWE legends collided for the world title at the Bragging Rights pay-per-view in 2009, as the match in question was between Batista, Taker, CM Punk, and Rey Mysterio. Towards the final stages of the match, the dead man hit a chokeslam on Batista, and Taker would then ask Batista if he was okay, which Batista replied with a definitive...
A choke slam.
He said no.
The animal then informs The Undertaker that he has to hit him with a tombstone. It was believed at the time that Batista may have suffered a minor injury, but I knew that the planned finish involved him being tombstoned, so he felt like he needed to inform Taker to the end of the match so he could be looked over by WWE's medical team. Number 5.
Damn, he definitely said, no, I'm not okay.
2004 Royal Rumble match. A Royal Rumble match can sometimes get complicated as every wrestler has to remember their specific spot in the match, and if someone forgets their spot, it can mess up the entire match. During the 2004 Royal Rumble, the Big Show had to inform the talent left in the match how the next sequence in the match was going to go down. As a remainder of the talent in the match attempted to lift Big Show off the mat, you could hear the Big Show say,
How are they going to get...
Oh, damn.
Show would then eliminate Cena, then RVD in the exact order that he had just audibly called. The eliminations would have been worked out.
Jesus, bro, y'all saw that? Cena definitely messed up his knee right there on that landing. God damn, you saw the way he landed on that?
Ahead of time, so it's likely that someone in the match forgot what order the eliminations were supposed to come. This forced Big Show to do an audible and extremely loud spot call to get the match back on track. Number 4, The Big Show vs Triple H on Raw in 1999. Speaking of the 7-foot-tall Big Show, in late 1999 he received a huge push and would win the title at the Survivor Series pay-per-view. The Big Show would then work a rivalry with Triple H that was predominantly on television, and in one specific match between the two, Triple H went overboard on the loud spot calling. As Triple H was intimidating referee Tim White in the corner, Triple H would scream,
How did he do that?
Oh, damn. The camera was right there. What you say? Side slam? God damn. He let, people in damn near front row, second row, third row heard the side slam.
It was overly blatant and hard to ignore.
Yeah.
The two would go on to work with each other rather frequently over their careers, so the noticeable spot calling likely came down to their inexperience with working with one another. Number 3, The Undertaker vs Edge at WrestleMania 24. A lot of secret communication between wrestlers goes on whilst they're tied up in the turnbuckle. As their faces are usually covered, they can have a quick conversation and discuss their next spots. Take for instance the main event of WrestleMania 24. It featured Edge defending the world title against The Undertaker in a tremendous WrestleMania main event.
That was a fun...
But there is one specific moment in the match where The Undertaker calls a spot louder than he's ever called a spot before. As the dead man proceeds to throw Edge, sometimes spot calling can be avoided, and on this occasion, this was likely one of the spots which was improvised in the match itself, rather than a spot that was planned ahead of time. Number 2, the 2007 Royal Rumble match. That year's Royal Rumble match featured a star-studded lineup, including the likes of The Undertaker, Randy Orton, and Shawn Michaels. One of the most infamous spots in the match occurred just before The Undertaker made his entrance. The Great Khali had entered the match and cleared house, and he then began to taunt the crowd, ready for the dead man to make his entrance. The issue here was that Khali was supposed to do his signature taunt towards the hard camera side of the arena, but Khali clearly got confused. Wrestling legend HBK had no choice but to point towards the hard camera side of the arena and shout,
At least. I'm afraid this
It was so obvious what HBK was communicating to Khali, but it's a good job he did. Otherwise, the preceding spot, which was to see The Undertaker make his entrance to take out the 7-foot-tall Khali, wouldn't have had the same effect. And number 1, The Rock versus John Cena at WrestleMania 28. The WrestleMania 28 main event saw The Rock take on John Cena in an epic dream match that fans never thought was ever going to be possible, even though it happened twice. The match was great from an in-ring point of view, but The Rock had a little ring rust, which was easy to understand after he spent so long away from the ring. Interestingly, although the spot calling was frequent in the match, it looked like The Rock was actually the one who called the match. At one point, Cena has a bear hug locked in on the Great One, and The Rock asks Cena if he wants to do the DDT.
Oh, wow.
The Rock then battles out of the bear hug and performs a trademark DDT, just as he said. And luckily, the spot calling didn't take anything away from the quality of the match, as the match is still fondly remembered as being one of the most memorable main events in WWE.
Oh, definitely one of the most memorable main events. And the thing is, with that whole match happening, it caused Cena to spiral. This was right when he lost that match. Then I want to say Brock Lesnar returned and started giving him the beats. I really think they should have turned him heel here. This would have been perfect because John Cena's now he can't fathom he couldn't beat The Rock. He's losing matches. They should have turned him heel there, but that's for another conversation for another day, man. But yeah, this is what happens in wrestling. And a lot of times it may get picked up by the camera, man. They're just trying to communicate the best way they can, man. But comment down below. Let me know what other wrestling reactions, wrestling videos, or even wrestling topics you guys want me to talk about. Comment them down below. But I appreciate all the love and support. Road to 80K. Appreciate y'all keeping me. See you on the next one.